And we are quickly going to rush back to the College of Physicians and Surgeons. We're live from our studios in Kokomlemle on digital address GA09925339. You know the top story already. It's all about the Ghana Football Association because Okraku and George Afriyie could be president of the Ghana Football Association as another runoff lurks. A first runoff ended a few minutes ago but failed the second time to produce a president as the two leading contenders failed to make the mark. Expectations are really high for a corrupt-free GFA going forward. We're live on the ground for the results of that voting. Well, the second runoff, which should come off any moment from now. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. Do join us on our social media handles and on YouTube. But Hans Mensa Ando is still here in the studio with me. Hans, it's been a very long day.
Very interesting also as well.
But indeed, like I was saying, football, politics, the food for Ghanaians.
It's what Ghanaians consume.
Certainly.
And this has been long coming. I mean, we've gone through a long process of normalization, which has culminated in this process. Once we're able to elect a new Ghana Football Association president, the work of the NC comes to an end. We all sign a new dawn as Ghanaians expect. And of course, we expect that things are going to be done differently from what we saw, from their last expose. But it hasn't been, a simple process. We all expected that, well, people were going to vote and then we declare the winner and move on.
So let's wrap it up nicely for those who are just joining us. I mean, those who are perhaps Paul's fans who have just tuned in. What has the day been like as far as the GFA's election is concerned?
So it began with 6 candidates, and of course that ended with none of them getting the required, majority to be able to win the election. And then we headed into a runoff. And of course, that has also not yielded a winner. The runoff was between 3 candidates because Fred Papu was supposed to be part of them.
I'm going to have to interrupt you briefly, Hans. When we come back, we'll give them our viewers the wrap. But the chairman of the Normalization Committee is speaking. Let's hear him.
Another round. Voting. We are going to do it. Thank you, Chairman.
So these are live visuals coming to you from Ridge. In fact, we've been there the whole day, and it's all about the election. It's going into a third round already, and Hans Mensa Ando is here. He's been here since morning. He's been following this development from the onset, and he will give us a wrap again. So Hans, you were telling me it started with 6 candidates.
We had Okraku, George Afriyie, we had Amanda Clinton, we had George Ankuma Mensah, we had Fred Papu, all in there, and Nanaya Amponsa. And of course, we couldn't find a winner, not because none of them had that simple majority, but that is not what we require. We require 50% plus 1. That should be around 61 votes, in total, and none of them had that. And so we headed into the runoff with Amanda Clinton.
And 60 plus 1 because the total number of delegates is
120.
Okay.
And we had Amanda Clinton and Mr. George Ankuma Mensah dropping out because they had no vote in the initial ballot that took place. And then we headed into the runoff which was supposed to have included Fred Papu, but he decided not to be a part of it, pulling out essentially from the contest. Then we had 3 persons in Okraku, George Afriyie, and Nanaya Amponsa. That has been done, and we had George Afriyie polling 43 votes. We had Okraku with 59, just 2 votes short of what was required. And Nanaya Amponsa's, votes reducing from the initial ballot from 27 to 16. And so again, we don't have any of the candidates with the required number of ballots. And so we are heading into a second runoff that will be between Okraku and George Afriyie. And there we should have a winner, definitely.
Okay. It looks like a very heated atmosphere at the College of Physicians and Surgeons there. I've seen that the chairman of the Normalization Committee has been speaking there, a sweaty chairman, I must say. But if we are to understand the dynamics of how this works, how is it that from a vote of 27, for example, for Nanaya, who was considered a long time, for a long time, right after the first election as the kingmaker or the decider, lose the 27 that he had to 16? I mean, how does that usually happen?
There are two possibilities. Either some of the people who voted for him simply decided not to vote for him in this round, which, in my opinion, is unlikely, or alliances have been formed. Okay, where possibly Nana Amponsa has spoken to, his people to back Kurt Okraku, because we saw an increase in his number of votes from the initial polls. And so those are the two possibilities in there. I think that it is more of the latter than the former.
All right. Well, Nat is already speaking there. Let's go over to the grounds right now.
Round of voting, because the first two rounds of voting are unable to get us the 50 plus 1%, which is mandated by the rules and regulations to get us a president of the Ghana FA. As it stands now, Kurt E.S. Okraku is leading the pack, but still inadequate in terms of votes to become president of the Ghana Football Association. And of course, here with me, as usual, are George Addo Jr. and Gary Al Smith of Joy Sports. Gentlemen, implication in this third round of voting. What can change?
Not very much. You expect Nanaya to drop more votes, but he needs to drop enough votes such that we can have someone getting over the line. Kurt Okraku is very close to this. Sometimes you feel Nanaya Amponsa at this stage can just say, oh, I'm out of this race for now, you guys go ahead. And that's what everybody expected, because the trend shows that he's losing votes as we go. Even by a larger concession, even though George is deep in it, George could also look at it and say, from a four vote difference to a 17 votes difference, you are clearly losing us. But you allow them to want to believe that something can change. I think this, Nanaya is going to drop more votes in what's coming next, because Kurt and George are going to appreciate. But it looks like overall, unless something extraordinary happens, Kurt is on his way to becoming the new Ghana Football Association president.
Okay, so Kurt Okraku on his way to becoming the new Ghana Football Association president. But of course, that will depend on a few factors. And these factors are that Nanaya Amponsa drops a few more votes. George also probably drops a few more votes. That looks unlikely from what we've seen in the pattern for the last two sessions of voting, right?
Well, it's interesting because now the lobbying will have to be for especially Nanaya Amponsa's voters. But George Afriyie would be worried that in the first round he had just 40 votes. And in the second round, he got only 3 additional votes. That would be a very big source of worry for him. The people you see on your screens are Kurt Okraku's camp. So that's Kurt Okraku. His campaign manager, I am Joe Sabu Alasan, member of his campaign team, Aminu Shadu on his left, and then Tony Obin, who has been voted onto the executive council as well. There's some join going on there. And they have to be sorting all these things out right now, because he needs just a few more votes to cross the line.
got lots and lots of analysis for you. We'll be going back to the College of Physicians and Surgeons where all the action is happening. But over here, my colleague Hans Mensah Ando has been following the development to bring you a wrap. As he was just putting together that wrap for me. He will continue and finish up with that, and then we'll move on from there. Hans, so you're saying the possibilities that could have resulted in Nanayao's loss of votes.
He's either formed alliances or those who voted for him, in the initial poll decided not to vote for him. But I think that there's the point where you begin to form alliances. There's a point where, you probably cut a deal with someone and say, look, I'm going to back you, you offer me this position. It's pure politics, and these things do play out. And so clearly we've got into that point. The task in terms of a mountain to climb is much more difficult for George Afriyie now. Very, very difficult, given that you've got Okraku with 59 votes, who requires only 2 to cross the threshold.
Okay.
And if you have, George Afriyie 43, you need about what, 16?
He needs, 16.
About 16 to be able to even 60, get exactly, and
he needs actually about 17.
About 17 votes to be able to hit the mark, and that is very, very significant. I mean, the possibilities are there. I mentioned it this morning, football people have their own language that they speak. He could, you can swear one person and a lot of other persons are going to follow that one person because you have a situation where people's interests are aligned to other people's interests. And so, for instance, if Gifty's interest is aligned to mine interests and I decide to, follow Okraku, the likelihood is that you're also going to be following me, and in essence,
it's interesting what's happening there. We should go over there and listen.
Please, order. The process is not over. Everybody take your seat.
I need water. Mr. President of the Normalization Committee, I can also see Supreme Court Judge and also Chairman of the Ethics Committee, or Disciplinary Committee of FIFA, members from FIFA, members of the Normalization Committee here, colleague delegates, colleague aspirants. Like I've always been preaching, football is one big family. There are no losers, there are no winners. And like I said in the beginning of this campaign, we've sat here, some of you came here as early as 8 o'clock. As at now, it's about 15 minutes past 3. We have the opportunity to go another third round. But like I said, I'm a unifier, I'm a team player, and I work for football. In the interest of football, I concede defeat, and I congratulate my brother, Kurt E.S. Okraku, as the winner. Thank you.
Order, please. George, what you have done is gentlemanly. It shows patriotism. You are indeed a unifier, and we accept your generous acceptance, and we wish you well. You continue to be a part of the Ghana football family. God bless you. Please, order. Please, order. obviously, and you want a president for the Ghana Football Association, if you do, please, let's restore order, have a seat, and let's complete this process. What's happening here? All right. Aminu. Where's your guy? Yeah, I need him to. Yes. Yeah.
These are live visuals, as you already know, from the RICH, which is the College of Physicians and Surgeons. That's a watershed moment right there. There is a new president-elect, if you like, for the GFA. Someone has had to concede,
yes.
Hans.
And George Afriyie, a moment earlier, announcing that he's decided not to continue with this electoral process, and has congratulated Okraku as the president-elect of the Ghana Football Association. He, touted his credentials as a unifier, as someone who works for football, and he feels that in the interest of Ghana football, he needs to take that step. And so this is where we find ourselves. The process comes to a close. Okraku will replace Kwesi Nyantakyi as the next president of the Ghana Football Association. And it brings to an end a very, very long and tumultuous period for Ghana football. The normalization process hasn't been easy. It had its own challenges. Of course, the jury is still out there on the performance of the normalization committee, but one thing is certain: this ushers in a new dawn for Ghana football.
A new dawn for Ghana football, and we'll talk about the new dawn because Ghanaians have their own expectations of a new Ghana Football Association, and whether or not this new association will be able to deliver is also a very big subject for debate. But let's talk a little bit more about the dynamics of this. I mean, there have been six people. One of the things that struck me most was that not even a single delegate voted for Amanda Clinton.
Yeah. And I spoke earlier about this, and I don't think that it's a good thing. Look, the Ghana, and we won't lie to ourselves, we know that the Ghana Football Association is very much a boys' club, but it has to change. We have to start respecting the involvement of women in football administration in this country. The lack of women involvement is part of the reason why women's football is not growing at the rate that it should in this country. If anything at all, is in decline. If you are going to look at the recent performance of the Black Queens in the women's AFCON, we didn't make it to the World Cup. We've not been able to make it to the Olympic Games. There were years when we were beating the likes of Cameroon by 13 goals to nil and the likes. And so, it's important that we get more female participation in the affairs of Ghana football.
We'll see how the new GFA pushes for that one. But let's go back there to the president, the chairman of the National Normalization Committee. interesting thing is still happening at the GFA elections that's ongoing. We'll cross over to our team on the ground for them to bring you more of the analysis. But Hans, what we're hearing from the Normalization Committee is that even though George Afriyie has conceded and probably thoughts would pull out, there is still going to be a vote.
Exactly. That's a mere formality for record's sake. That it has to reflect that indeed Ket got a required number of votes to become president of the Ghana Football Association. So that's a mere formality. But at this point, I don't think that there is any doubt about what has happened.
But clearly, it's voting, Hans. Anything can happen. I mean, what if they go for they go into this particular poll
and it still doesn't get it.
And the tables turn. Let's say the tables turn, and then we'll see George. It's happened before.
Well, as it stands, he's the only person.
He's
the only person whose face is going to be on that ballot. Because George has pulled out. I'm thinking that Nana Amponza has also pulled out because.
We haven't seen. We haven't had Nanaya pull out.
Even if he doesn't pull out, with George, conceding and declaring Okraku as a winner and congratulating him, his voters, those who voted for him, are going to follow him and vote for. And besides, we are talking about only 2 votes, and I don't think that there is any doubt really. It's just a mere formality.
It's a done deal, you say.
Exactly.
You say it's a done deal, but I'll be interested to get to our team on the ground for them to tell us whether or not what the dynamics are going to be for this particular runoff. Will it be that all three will be on the ballot, or will it just be one person, or will it just be 2 people?
We don't have.
Let's cross over. Let's cross over.
One candidate. So what we do is that when we give it to you and you want to vote for him, you thumbprint. If you don't want to vote for him, leave it blank. Have I made myself clear? The same ballot paper. When we give the ballot paper to you, it's only one candidate. If you want to vote for him, thumbprint. If you don't want, leave it blank. Because I just said that present and voting. So that once you don't thumbprint, it means that you are present. Thank you very much.
Information there. Absolutely. From what you were just saying.
Nana Amponza has also, obviously conceded. We are going to have only one face person on that ballot paper. And so, like he said, if you want to vote for him, you vote. If you don't want to vote for him, you leave it blank. I don't think that, there is anybody in there who is going to decide that he's not going to vote for Ket at this point. Of course, we are going to have 1 or 2
so
people
you're expecting like 119 since there's been a consistent one rejected ballot.
I don't think that he's going to have problems securing those 2.
Not those 2. I mean, so for example, as you said that you don't think that anybody at this point in time will vote against Ket.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
But assuming they go after this particular runoff, it turns out that and half of the people did not vote. He makes it, but half of the people did not vote for him.
That probably would send the message rather than anything. It will probably send a message that he doesn't probably have the massive support within the Ghana Football Association that he probably wants. But I mean, again, we don't expect that to happen.
But that could also be research material for him, so he knows how to work, because it's like 50-50
Absolutely. But I need to also point out, I think that Ket presented a solid, policy document or manifesto, if you like. His ideas were spot on. He also has a proven track record of being somebody who is able to organize competitions and market. He's a brand person, he's a marketing person, and so he has a track record. Took the FA Cup, and over the years that he's been in charge of the FA Cup, he has seen tremendous growth, over the years. And so he's been there, he's seen it all, he's done it all. And his interaction with the media, so remember he's been somebody who's worked in the media before, before moving into football and all of that. And I think that he utilized the media space probably better than a lot of the candidates, and that has also reflected.
Interesting. What were can you rehash for us the plan with which he has won this election? Okay, so
all the candidates highlighted, juvenile football. He talks about, revamping the local league. He talks about bringing in money in terms of how the Ghana football goes about the organization of the league. I think that he addressed the problems of the football people. He spoke to their problems, and that is why a lot of them probably have joined him in his corner. His policies are many. He talks about the national team, but mainly his focus has been about enhancing the image of the Ghana Football Association, making it attractive for corporate Ghana.
Let's cross over to Nathaniel now.
Who earlier in the day also announced a decision to resign his position as director of Dreams Football Club in the Ghana Premier League. Now, this is the situation after George Afriyie conceded defeat. It is required by the rules and regulations that the delegates vote to a 50+1 majority for Kurt E.S. Okraku, which is what is happening now. Gentlemen, an interesting turn of events here today.
Yeah, very interesting. And you remember I said if George was thinking right, he would just come out and concede, and he just did that. Clearly, Kurt was moving in a direction where he was going to get more votes. There was nothing that was going to stop it. The only chance for George was probably pushing this, so we suspend the election and we come back and do it. He clearly realized that he had no chance, and Kurt has won it. I mean, marks up. He's worked very, very hard, because he came in from a position where he was not too advantaged. There were so many guys up in front of him, but I think he's done a good job, and on the day, he's gotten what he needed to do, and he's become the new FA president.
Gary, tell me what it is that came to play in this election. What is it that became the master factor that led to this victory by Kurt?
I don't think that at the moment we need to go onto the grounds to understand the dynamics of what went on in the past 3 hours. Because remember that yesterday by this time, things were fluid. This morning, things were fluid. The factors are not the same. Even 2 hours ago, even 2 rounds ago, the factors were not the same. So we can't sit here and say that this was the master factor. What we can say broadly is that Kurt's message of being the game changer resonated with the delegates. He said he was going to change the game. He would take Ghana football from a certain position. He put out an impressive manifesto. We saw how he put out his branding. We saw his campaigning around the country. He went on a nationwide tour, but whatever his message was, it resonated with the people, and it touched them, and they voted for him to be their president.
Now, let's also talk about track record, because that has been everyone's trump card coming into this process. Now, Kurt stood on strong grounds of what he was able to do when he was given, for instance, the MTN FA Cup, which was one of his strongest trump cards. Is something you mentioned earlier today on the morning show. The MTN FA Cup as a venture has proven a great, a great plus for him, in this process.
But like Gary was saying, even that is very difficult to say. George has done some things. Nanaya Amponsa has done some things. Even George Ankoma has done some things. So it's really difficult to say the delegates pointed to one thing or the other. But what we are sure about is every presidential candidate had the chance to be delegates. You told them something. The messages that clearly went out from Kurt resonated with them, and they voted. We will talk about Kurt on another platform when we are assessing what we think he can do. But right now, in the spur of the moment right now, Kurt has been able to sell what he had to the delegates, and they believe he's the next man to go. And it's important to realize the difference in the first round, 4 votes, the difference in the second, 17, and we're heading towards, who knows what. So I think Kurt has sold his message very well, and the delegates have grabbed that. For now, they believe he's the right man to lead the Ghana Football Association, and we'll keep it. It's interesting because, and it's also difficult to point out, this was the thing that gave Kurt the votes. That was what made George lose, because they're multifaceted, really. And it will take a lot after we get to the ground and try and point. A lot of theories are going on, but really, it's up to the delegates. And like we're saying, the permutations were changing. The dynamics were changing by the hour, by the minute. But it comes down to one thing. What do the delegates want? The majority of the delegates. And they pointed the way they want Kurt E.S. Okraku.
before we look at the way forward and the future, the immediate future, let's now look at all of these delegates. Let's begin with Amanda Clinton. Going away from here, I mean, where do you see her going regarding her relationship with the fraternity and her relationship with football?
Amanda Clinton has lost absolutely nothing from partaking in this process and gained an incredible lot. She came from a position of a complete unknown within the wider football family. Among the football people, she was not known, which was reflected in the 0 votes she got. What has she got in return? An incredible amount of free airtime to advertise herself as somebody who is daring, somebody who is brave, somebody who is non-conformist, somebody who is anti-establishment, somebody who is willing to take on the system, somebody who believes in what she believes in, somebody who will die by what she believes in, somebody who is a lawyer willing to go into the mud, in the trenches, in a territory where she's not familiar. Now, what this does for somebody like her is, tomorrow, if she is charging you fees for any services, she's not the same Amanda Clinton from 3 months ago. She's not the ordinary Amanda Clinton who was the spokesperson for Men's Gold and their aggrieved customers. She's Amanda Clinton, the first woman who was daring enough, who was, what's the word again? Who was hard enough to challenge the established order, even when everybody was laughing at her. She's Amanda Clinton, somebody who you must respect. And that is what she's taken from this. She's gained an incredible lot. Historically, everybody's going to remember her. For those who are laughing at her, what have you done for yourself?
Well, interesting lessons to learn from here. And we'd like to say greetings to all of our viewers from across the country, all of those who are following us live on our social media platforms, those who also are watching from via ABN TV in the UK. Thanks to all of you for following the coverage, and thanks and greetings to all of our friends, especially in Yendi, who are paying very close attention to all of this. I know that it is a ground which also has great football talents and will be seeking the attention of this new FA president in Kurt Okraku. Let's talk about lawyer George Ankuma Mensah, the other lawyer in all of this.
I thought he came out clearly with what he wanted to do. He had his manifesto launch a bit on the low because he was the last guy who did it, but of course the lawyer was able to sell his ideas on the day. I thought he came out really well when we had the presidential debate. So for Amanda Clinton, for lawyer Ankuma, I think Kets may want to look at some of the ideas and see if he could bring them to the table and see how they go about it. Because I think in the whole process, everyone had some good ideas that will help Ghana football. Now, immediately the election is over, we have to stop thinking, I was with George, I was with Kets, I was with Amanda, we at the moment have to start thinking about Ghana football. Remember, we are all behind because of the issues that we've had, and this is the time to pull together and move. So it's even a good step that George would concede and have Kets on the stage, but it has to move to the next level where we begin to take the ideas. Because listen, George, apart from, for me, his idea of paying players a stipend to ensure that they don't leave the country, had excellent ideas that he put on. So for someone like George, again, like Amanda, he took the opportunity, he's marketed himself very well. And these days, there are lots of football cases flying here and there. You could seek his brain, the legal brain as well for it. I think it's been a good advert for George, irrespective of the fact that he didn't get any votes. I don't think that his expectations were so high. He came in and gave it his best, and his best has been felt with what he put down on paper in terms of what he wanted to do for Ghana football.
Personally, I was a little overwhelmed by the performance of Nana Yaw-Amponsah. I didn't see him performing this strongly. I don't know what you think.
Yes, same here, same sentiments. I certainly didn't expect him to get 27 votes in the first round. I mean, that's an incredible achievement by the young man. He said when he was given the final 3 minutes to pitch to the delegates for the last time, I don't know how it might have affected them, but he said, I'm 36 years.
Yes.
He said, I'm 36 years, and some of you think that I'm too young, but look beyond my age. Look at my ideas. Look at my performance. Look at what I have to offer. Don't look at the fact that I'm 36 years. And truly, for a demographic of people in Ghana who are looking to challenge the system, take on the system, this young man started taking on the system when he was 34 years.
Exactly. That's true.
I mean, it takes some balls to do that. He was challenging the almighty, the powerful Kwesi Nyantakyi when he was in his peak, when he was 34 years. And today, he has crowned it with an incredible performance. It will be foolhardy on the part of any of the forerunners in this election or any football administrator to look Nana Amponsah in the eye and say that you have nothing to offer. Because indeed, he did. He's the only one of the candidates who had the temerity to even say that he was going to put down a plan for his first 100 days in office with timelines. If I am Kurt Okraku, I am stealing that. If I am Kurt Okraku, I am stealing that tonight, tomorrow by Sunday. I am putting out a plan where I am saying, this is my plan. I'm just looking at the template and putting my own inside. Who knows that I copied it from him? Nobody knows. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So like George said, I have my own ideas about the first 10 things, and you are going to see it on my jawline, that the successful candidate is supposed to do now that he has come to office. And one is putting out a transitional team. The other is having a council of elders, or as I like to put it, a government of unity. To put everybody together to show the public that we are going forward.
We will be focusing on that in a bit, but we will be doing analysis as well on Papse, Fred Papo, and George Afriyie before coming finally to Kurt Okraku and looking at his journey going forward, which will definitely include putting together this team of unity that Gary is suggesting. But remember, we're bringing you in-depth coverage, as we always do when the nation gets to points like these in its history. Obviously, a historic moment because of the not so regular times that we've been in the last year and a half. And so JoyNews and Joy Sports and all of our multimedia platforms are very, very heavy on this. Now, my colleague Baba Tanda of Joy Sports spoke to George Afriyie just before he took leave of us here from the venue. Let's take a listen to that interview. After that, we come back for more analysis as the voting, the final round of voting goes on.
George, congratulations. In the end, you are the real MVP. But why this decision, though?
Well, I mean, the football people have spoken, and it's loud and clear. I didn't want to take them through another touch of going round to vote. It's okay. Football, once you belong to football, you work for football, you need to understand that football is the winner.
Congratulations to you, George.
Sad.
But he's young.
Well, in football, respect plays a very, very big role. And this is clearly, undoubtedly, a great moment of respect where George Afriyie looked at the situation and realized that this place, which is the place of the office of presidency of the Ghana Football Association, is not necessarily his to occupy in this time in our history. It probably could be another day, and he did what he felt was the needful, which was to concede. And for me, from a personal point of view, he's earned my respect 200% more. Gentlemen, now we come to George because we just took his video. We'll come to Papse later on. The performance in the election, how much he was able to poll, how much he wasn't able to poll. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, these days when you lose a Ghana Football Association election, you don't need to overly cry, because even if Ketz is going to win his second term, he can only run for 2 terms, so there's an opportunity, whatever the case is. Looking at the candidates that are left, I think in the next 4 years, it's still going to be a tight race. All George can learn from this, because he still holds a lot of CAF, positions. What he can learn from this is grow in the process and understand the football landscape better. So I think for George, he was going to come out as a better football politician, the next time it comes around. There's no shame in losing an election, and he clearly showed that. But he will go and work on his flaws and ensure that when he comes around again, it's going to happen. Now, it will be more about what Ketz would decide to do with the other candidates who didn't win. He may decide to draw them in, put them on committees, and see how he can use their influence and all of that. George has a lot of connections. I know Ketz has a lot of connections, but Ketz could tap into that. Let's have a feeling of once the election is over, the road is clear and everybody can work. I think George has done his best. He's been a vice president for long. He would have felt that this was just about the right time to go in, but you could also say Palmer felt that this was the right time to go in, and he was even disqualified in the process. So it's happened. But all it gives you, the opportunity it gives you, is to go back, sit, and look through the next 4 years and see what you can offer. Remember, what you can offer Ghana football, not you becoming the president. Your becoming the president is not the issue, but it's what you can offer Ghana football, which is even more critical. And these are the ideas I expect George to go back and work. He still has a good constituency in football, and he can use that to his benefit.
Well, interesting that you use the word constituency, because one person who over the period and over the years obviously lost a lot of constituency was Fred Papple. I mean, this was somebody who became a vice president of the Ghana Football Association. At a certain point, he took a bow, left the system, and he took part in this election, but did not make as much impact as we all expected him to, considering that he, in terms of pedigree, experience, and all, stood poles above.
Well, Fred Papple, I think he will look back and agree with all those who said that his lack of personality or his lack of personable interaction with the delegates over the years is what cost him. During this election period, obviously, he came close to delegates. But you see, you don't get close to delegates only when you need the votes. Over the period, last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you were still a director of Olympics. You were still a delegate for Okraku and Olympics. Never took part in football activities, never came close to them. You're only coming to them when you want the power. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
Well,
so he's a man of great intellect, a lot of undoubted experience, knows the terrain. However, you still need those thumbprints. At the end of the day, he only got 6 of them.
Wow. Now,
I very much agree with Gary, because, Fred was out of the system for a while, and he came in. If you stayed in touch in terms of being in football, because Fred will tell you at a point he decided not to have anything to do with football, and he's a very good face in other circles, other spheres of life. So I'm sure he spent a lot of time on that, and he came in rather too late. But every one of the candidates know that Fred is such a wonderful head when it comes to Ghana football, and he's available for you to tap in.
Let's now come to the man of the moment, and very soon that acclamation will be done, and that confirmation will be given us that he truly has wrapped up the process officially to become president-elect of the Ghana Football Association. Ketz Okraku traveled a very long journey, and interestingly, it took him a while to announce, this bid to become president of the Ghana FA, because he had to do a lot of consultations.
Yeah,
he had to.
He had to consult.
He had to do a lot of legwork, and to look at the timing. I mean, for the longest time, he denied even wanting to become, FA boss, because Kwesi Nyantakyi was in the picture, and because of other factors. But when he did, I remember he announced it on a Monday. We were going for the Joy Sports track around 12:30.
Yeah.
He made the announcement, and so we went on air around 1 o'clock, and we played the video. But what is clear about Ketz's bid is that it was planned. Like every step of the way, his campaign left nothing to chance.
At all.
It was meticulous. It's only second, I think, to Nana Amponse's campaign in terms of how planned it was, how well executed it was. There was nothing shoddy, nothing shabby, nothing all over the place about it. It was on point. You know, if you can bring the same meticulousness to the management of the affairs of the Ghana FA, that would be great.
Now,
there's no doubt. I'll struggle to not believe that Kets can get this job done because he has demonstrated that with the FA Cup, of course, demonstrated that critically with Dreams FC.
His own club.
Now they've got a structure.
Yeah.
I love to say Dreams FC in Thailand. We're leading the way in all of that. But Dreams FC has got a wonderful structure. The ideas that he brought during the Premier League, I mean, the last season, journalists go and cover games and we're giving something to eat and all of that. The sheets were shared. There was a little bit of organization when it got to Dreams FC. And you could feel it not only in their performance, but again, in the club office. You know, so Ket is prim and proper. He's a guy who's able to lay things out. But as Gary said, it could remain a dream because sometimes power can absolutely corrupt. But we know that Ket, with what he's done so far, his branding, which is one of the key things about him.
Perception management.
Perception management. I think he's a fantastic guy. I expect a lot of massive branding coming for the Ghana Football Association and looking at an association that wants to reposition itself in the market. He may just be the best candidate in that light.
All right, and Amanda Clinton continuously mentioned money and the fact that obviously we all need, right? She kept reminding us that a lot of capital is needed to put the FA back on its feet and to tow that path that we all want to see it to. Now, Kurt's election as president, what kind of confidence do you expect this to, grow within Ghana? Going forward?
I mean, to be honest, he has run an incredibly sleek campaign. Perception-wise, like we said, I don't think any of the candidates comes close to what Kurt did. Social media, traditional media, the guys around him, the way they put out his messaging and all that. So if I am corporate Ghana and I had to rank all the 6 candidates by the loveliness, by the suitability, by the perception that ordinary Ghanaians have, because if I'm a corporate person and I'm an MD of the company or the financial person who is supposed to bring out the money, obviously I'm going to seek the opinion of people who know the game and say, what do you think of Okraku? The first thing they are going to say, oh, this guy, when we gave him a product, if you go to the headline sponsor of the FA Cup, and they're one of the biggest companies, telecom or otherwise, they know what he has done. And so if I am Kurt, I'm calling them first. All right? If I am Kurt, I am calling that telecom company immediately and say, yo, you know what I've done with you.
Let's hit the ground running.
The FA Cup is, let's increase it now. And if the FA Cup alone is going to be that launch pad, the world is our oyster. We come to the league. If we see that the perception for the FA Cup is great, it's a blue touch paper that is well and truly lit, and it's great. The other areas of perception we need to manage have to do with the governance structures, the optics. When people listen to the Joy Sports Center with George Ado every morning, is George going to constantly complain that the GFA governance structure is bad and that Kurt is circumventing the laid down procedures to choose his own vice president? When the rule says, Article 30 says 1, 2, 3, Kurt is doing some kululu and some machinations and things like that. Are those the sort of things? Those are the sorts of everyday things that we want to see the new GFA administration depart from when it comes to the old guard. We want to see domestic competition starting as early as possible. And because the normalization committee had already put in measures to start the competition by the first or second week of November, we can start that process and start moving. By the end of November, I see no reason why the Ghana Premier League should not have started for us to enjoy local football, without a sponsor or not. I would like to see the Ghana Premier League starting without a sponsor or not. Halfway, if the perception is good, look, a lot of companies would like to join. If even the full package would have been $1 million or $2 million, you know what, they'll opt to be the first movers in that one.
Yeah.
Kurt can just tell them that, you know what, we have 6 months to do the Ghana Premier League. You bring just $200,000. Give us that commitment. Next season, we are going to give you all the mileage you need. Next season, we will make sure that we give you a better package.
And I just want to add something. When it comes to doing the outlandish, Kurt is the guy.
Ah, yeah.
He's able to carry the FA Cup, take it to Tamale, take it to Takrady, take it to a Sipong. So, and we need a solid turnaround in some of the things that we do. The thinking must change. He's just maybe the right guy for it.
You know his slogan, still believe.
Yeah, and I'm very sure that Shatawale,
there we are.
Shatawale, the dancehall
champion,
will also want to celebrate.
No,
with him.
no, give it to his team Shatawale. Team Shatawale.
Gary is a member of Team Shatawale. There's no doubt about that.
Okraku is a big member of Team Shatawale as well.
All right, sure. So we'll be doing all of that. But, the Sports Writers Association of Ghana has released a statement. We'll do that just before we go back to the studio for the continuation of Pulse here on this channel. And it reads, the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, SWAG, is delighted that today you have been elected the second president of the Ghana Football Association by the football family through an unprecedented, historic and democratic process. You must be highly content with this, as you have undoubtedly worked very hard to achieve this position. Your commitment and dedication has helped to attain the presidency of the Ghana Football Association. All your hard work has paid off, and SWAG sincerely hopes you fulfill your promises and shine brightly to give a future to Ghana football. SWAG salutes you on your victory with immense joy because you are a proud member of our cherished association. We take this opportunity to congratulate you on your well-deserved, planned and overlong success. SWAG will in the coming days engage you in the promotion and development of the game. Congratulations, Mr. Kurt Simeon E.S. Okraku. And this is from the General Secretary, Mr. Charles Osei Esibe. And I'll just quickly wrap up with this. To all of our friends in other professions, and I'm talking on behalf of all journalists, it surely is a moment of great joy. The lawyers have taken it for far too long. You go to the Ghana Bar Association, obviously it's the lawyers of the Ghana Bar Association. At boxing, it's the lawyers. I mean, for the presidency at a certain point, it was the lawyers as well. Well, we've started as journalists with the Ghana Football Association. You watch out for us. We'll be taking a few specific industries that affect the development in the nation.
Decide to do laws.
All right, so we will go over to the studio for the continuation of Pulse. We'll come back when the counting begins. This is your continuous coverage of the GFA election 2019.
This is where we take over from the team on the ground. It's me, Gifty Ando, Apia here with Hans Mensah Ando. It's all about the GFA. Very interesting development going on there. As you are well aware of, there is a vote still going on at the College of Physicians and Surgeons, and that vote is essentially some sort of formality, as Hans puts it. So, Hans, back to our conversation.
Yeah.
In terms of the reasons that have been assigned to the concession, I mean
George
Afriyie conceding there, he talks about how he's a unifier and how he believes in Ghana football and how he thinks that doing so is in the best interest of Ghana football. Yeah. There could still be some other reasons.
There are other reasons. Of course, these things do not happen in a vacuum. Consultations may have gone on. It's possible, consultations may have gone on. It's possible that, well, maybe he's probably been promised a position within the FA setup. It's also possible that he's sown a seed that he is going to, reap in the future. And by that I mean that, look, that singular act is going to earn him a lot of goodwill. The football people are going to look at it and say that, look, when push came to shove, he took a step that ensured that the process runs smoothly, if you like. And so he's going to earn a lot of goodwill. He's surely going to be back. And I think that, of course, per the new statutes, the Ghana Football Association president has 2 terms of 4 years. Okay. And so even if Kurt is able to run those 2 terms, George Afriyie surely, we expect that he'll be coming back. If not the next 4 years, the next 8 years, but at some point he's going to be coming back. And of course, he's going to be reminding delegates that I'm a through and through football person. When push came to shove, I put the interest of Ghana football ahead of my own presidential ambitions. And so that's a seed that he's sown and one that he's going to be reaping, in the future. So those are, the other reasons that, may have accounted for his decision to concede.
Consultations. It looks like consultations go on a lot.
You like consultations?
I like the idea. I like that. I think there's something about the sound of the word that actually.
How about deliberations?
Consultations. I like consultations. But let's look at the FA, the future of the FA.
Absolutely.
It's come a very long way. It's been a very turbulent moment for the GFA, especially since that Anas expose. Going forward, the expectations are very high when it comes to corruption, a corrupt-free GFA. How do we even get there? What are the hurdles that the GFA would have to jump to get to a corrupt-free GFA?
Well, I mean, they've got their work cut out, and I've heard a lot of the candidates, highlighting the fact that it's make or break for the Ghana Football Association moving forward. They cannot afford to get it wrong. Among themselves, of course, they've mentioned that things were not done right. If you look at the things that we saw in the Anas expose, those are things that really have dented the image of the Ghana Football Association with respect to the institution and the people themselves. Look, we've got a situation where even people who were not implicated in the Anas documentary are tagged as quote corrupt.
Perception there.
Exactly. And so they've got their work cut out. They need to clean up the image of the Ghana Football Association. That's the first thing, really. Look, if you look at the Ghana Premier League, attendance is at an all-time low. People are not watching the Ghana Premier League, as much as they used to in the past. If you look at interactions with corporate Ghana, it's not the best. They are not getting the sort of sponsorship that the brand or the product Ghana Premier League should be getting. Confidence in the brand Ghana Premier League and by extension the Ghana Football Association is very, very low, and that is what they need to work on ASAP. Of course, how do they deal with that? Some of it has already been done in terms of the NC reviewing the statutes and those reviews ratified by Congress. The review started to focus on things like greater transparency, where now we are going to have not government auditors, but private auditors like the KPMGs and the Deloitte, auditing the accounts of the Ghana Football Association. They've also pledged to make the audited account of the FA public for everyone to see, all the stakeholders. There's a sense that they are going to be more accountable, not only to the constituents of the Ghana Football Association, but they are going to look beyond the constituents of the Ghana Football Association because they realize that when they are looking for money, they don't get the money within the Ghana Football Association. They look outside for the money. They look at government, they look at corporate Ghana. And so it stands to reason that they render account to these stakeholders as well and also to the fund. So, the expectations are very high, and I think that it's rightly so. And I'm hoping that football people are going to walk the talk. A lot of talking has been done. If you look at the policy documents of the candidate, the manifestos of the candidates, lots of promises have been made. People are expecting big things, better things of the Ghana Football Association, and they simply cannot fail Ghanaians.
They simply cannot fail Ghanaians. Hans, thank you so much. There's still a very quick one. There's still conversations about the role of former President Kwesi Nyantakyi. Some people have said that he still has some level of influence in all of this. Does he?
I think Kwesi Nyantakyi casts a very large shadow over Ghana football, and even with his removal, he's still going to cast a shadow over Ghana football. Remember, the previous administration was made up largely of Nyantakyi loyalists. How many people dare stand against Kwesi Nyantakyi? We are talking about a man who was able to get Congress to change the statute to have him run for unlimited terms. We are talking about somebody who was able to get Congress to change the statute for him to handpick his vice president. And so, yes, he's going to cast a large shadow over the Ghana Football Association for a very long time. It is something that has to be managed. There were, talk about him having candidates or boys in there. Okraku has even been mentioned because we understand that when he removed George Afriyie, Kurt was one of the people that he was considering to become the vice president of the Ghana Football Association. So there's a thinking that Kurt Okraku is a Nyantichi boy. But, you know, I want to think that Kurt is his own man. I want to think that he's not going to be taking instructions from Kwesi Nyantichi.
It's only time now will tell.
So we have to wait and see what happens.
Only time now will tell. Hans, thank you very much. You can drop us a message. What do you think right now that we know that Kurt Okraku is the president-elect for the Ghana Football Association? Send us a WhatsApp message on 0540109009. That's 0540109009. Whilst you're sending on GFA, also send your messages and questions on land acquisition. We're going to have our land conversation here as well. Whilst we wait for the vote to be over, we already know the outcome. We just have to wait for the acceptance speech by the winning candidate. Also, so some of you did send a few of your messages. This one says, I'm only going to see Oli Kunkumbaja in the next football season. The race is for Kurt Okraku. Okay, so some of you had actually indicated earlier that he was going to win. The victory is for Kurt Okraku, simple and period. That's from Amate from Ashaiman. Thanks for sending in your messages. Hans, thank you so much. It's been a very long day for you. You should go get some wache and eat in honor of Kurt Okraku.
Unfortunately, I'm off wache for a while.
Okay, you.
I'll do some salad.
Keto. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Keto stuff.
Very well. This is still The Pulse. My name is Gifty Andopia. I've been doing this with Hans Mensah Ando so far. We've also had on the ground our team, Nathaniel Ato, Gary Al Smith, and George Ado Jr., Baba Tando as well. We're monitoring this situation keenly. That's a GFA situation. We'll bring you more as and when there is a new development.